Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we're going to be looking at Nightwish. Now over the course of me having this channel, I've had many people ask me to look at Nightwish. Now, being a big fan of Nightwish, I do actually own pretty much everything they've ever released. But a couple of days ago, Nightwish released a new track cut off their new album, which is coming up in the next couple of months. I think it was March, maybe May, could be April, I can't remember. But anyway, it's coming up in a month or two, and they released a track called Noise, which is the track we're going to be looking at today. Now, if anybody doesn't know who Nightwish are, where have you been hiding? But here's some little information about them. Now, there is quite a lot of information about the band, so I'll try to narrow it down to as little as possible. Now, Nightwish are a symphonic metal band formed in Kite in Finland. I probably pronounced that horribly wrong, I do apologise. They were formed in 1996 by lead songwriter and keyboardist Tuomas Holopainen, guitarist Empu Vuorinen, and lead singer Tarja Turunen. They released their first album, Angel Falls First, in 1997, after which they managed to fill out the rest of the band with drummer and bassist. And it wasn't until their 2004 album, Once, that they actually had a breakthrough success outside of their home country. Now, the albums between Angels Fall First and Once, they did gain some popularity, but they didn't really get their breakthrough in popularity until the 2004 Once album. Now, near the end of 2005, Tarja was dismissed from the band via an open letter. They didn't even actually tell her to her face. They basically gave her a letter saying that she was kicked out of the band, and there's no actual explanation as to why that I could find. So, in 2007, Annette Olsen was announced as the replacement for Tarja, and she remained with the band for a good 5 years before the band then fired her. And now there are conflicting reasons as to why this happened. Olsen believes that it was because she was pregnant at the time, but the band claimed that it was just a clash of personalities. Now, they actually dismissed her in the middle of a tour and replaced her with Floor Jansen, who is still currently the vocalist, as I understand it. Now, Nightwish is the third best-selling band and musical entity in Finland, with certified sales of nearly 900,000 copies of their albums, and the group is also the most successful Finnish band worldwide, selling more than 9 million records and receiving more than 60 gold and platinum awards, and having released 5 #1 albums and 13 #1 singles. You know, so that they're a very popular band. You know, they've done very, very well. Now, as I said, we're looking at a track today called Noise, which, like I say, was released a couple of days ago, so we'll see what this is like. I mean, this is the first single they've released in 5 years, I think, so it should be interesting to see where they've gone. Let's have a look. So, Noise by Nightwish. Let's have a look. There we go. That was Noise by Nightwish. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I'm not the biggest fan of Floor Jansen era Nightwish. I much prefer the Tarja era. You know, I think she had a better and stronger and more powerful voice. But that being said, Floor Jansen does still have a very, very good, very powerful voice. I just prefer the Tarja era. However, that track was brilliant, and it's seems to be quite an unusual track for Nightwish, because a lot of their tracks seemed more sort of fantasy based, whereas this one sort of has more of a sort of emphasis towards technology, the current world, the way it is at the moment. And as you can see by the video, it's mostly focusing on the way people are so involved in technology and how they rely on things like social media for their ego boosts and things like that, and the lyrics reflect just as much. I mean, the very opening lines of the song are "Crave the machine, revere the screen, zoom in for flack and misery, bleed some pixels, shoot yourself, pose for the dead, have a near-life experience in a hot air matrix." So, just those opening lines, "Crave the machine, revere the screen," it's like the way everybody's so addicted to their mobile phones. I mean, throughout the video, everybody was sort of sitting there on mobile phone-like devices throughout the entire thing. And it's like, shoot yourself, pose for the dead, have a near-life experience. So it's like the way people are always taking photos of themselves. I mean, there was even a part in the video where some guy was getting severely beaten, and there was a guy in the foreground posing for a selfie whilst this guy was getting beaten up in the background. Carried on. "Now you're a star, vain avatar, feeding the beast in your loud ego land. You have become tool of a tool, digital ghouls telling you to shut up and dance." So now you're a star. Everybody's trying to get famous using the internet, and like Instagram. You've got these influencers who are follow my fashion tips, or I'm just going around talking these places up and hoping that these places will give me free stuff so I can say how great they are. A lot of people are seeking fame through the internet these days. Feeding the beast in your loud ego line. So essentially feeding your own ego by doing all these things, going, "Look how great I am because I have got this opinion of such and such." And it seems like a strange thing for me to be saying, given that I'm talking about my opinions on music on the internet. It says, "You have become a tool of a tool, a digital ghouls telling you to shut up and dance." So, you've become slave to your machine. The machine is essentially your tool, but you've become that machine's tool. It's using you in its own sense. It says digital ghouls telling you to shut up and dance. So that's like the audience that you're gaining, telling you what you should and should not be doing. It goes, "Colour a yarn and the crowds will gather." And then it goes into that chorus, "Noise. From a sunless world, your mirror is black. Only a copy stares back at a slave of a brave new world. Noise. To decoy the human voice. Brain insomniac, paranoiac, endless noise." So it goes from a sunless world, because, very few people actually go outside and enjoy the world as it is these days. Everybody's more involved in technology. They don't pay attention to the world around them. And your mirror is black. The Black Mirror is black. It's a very common thing at the moment. I mean, there's the TV show Black Mirror, etc. And, that's referring to the screen of, a computer or a mobile device, etc. Well, that's what I'm guessing that it stands for. That's all I can think of. It says, "Your mirror is black, only a copy stares back." So it's like you're just looking at a version of yourself through these things. It's not, it's a facsimile of who you really are. And at a slave of a brave new world. So, a slave to technology. People these days can't seem to survive without technology. You got these people that have got fear of missing out. They have to be on the internet constantly because they're scared of missing something that and got these people that actually have a genuine fear of being without their mobile phone. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, back when, I'm going to sound like an old man now. Back when I was young, you know, we didn't have things like mobile phones and stuff like that. And you know, we read newspapers and stuff like that. We had to use encyclopedias, actual physical books to look stuff up. But you know, these days everybody's so reliant on this technology. You know, and they're so they want to know everything that's going on in the world, so they can't detach themselves from these mobile devices. It carries on. Please love me, see how I bleed. Please endure, have such empathy in me. Hum, noise hum, beautifully numb, tapping the quiet air to have a meaning. By a carrion, sad hologram, lost in the maze, the real and human feel. Sunset is free from this deity. The earth has a real voice. Go out and get it. So, please love me, see how I bleed. So again, that's like trying to get attention from the world at large, you know, by having an online presence, you know, taking photos and doing whatever it is that you do, just in the hope that people will like give you likes, kudos, thumbs up, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's like, please love me, give me attention, you know. And where is it? This last bit here, I actually quite like this. Sunset is free from this deity. The earth has a real voice. Go out and get it. So it's like, look, there's a beautiful world out there. You know, you don't have to pay to see the beauty of this world. Go outside, enjoy it. You know, the earth has a real voice. Go out and get it. It's like, go out, enjoy nature, rip yourself away from all this technology, from your mobile devices. Go out and actually enjoy the world in reality rather than investigating the world through technology. You know, instead of sitting on your computer all day looking at photographs of sunset, go outside and actually see a real one. You know. And then it carries on. I will follow. Colour a yarn. The crowds will gather. And then it goes back into that chorus. Noise from a sunless world. Your mirror is black. Only a copy stares back at a slave of a brave new world. Noise to decoy the human voice. Brain insomniac. Paranoiac. Endless noise. Feast your eyes on the black mirror. Feed the beast. Join the gathering. Tell a tale. Feast of fears is drawing near. Beyond the human horizon, something terrifying sleeps. And then it goes back into that chorus again. So, you know, there's that bit there. Feast your eyes on the black mirror. You know, just people are addicted to their phones. They have to look at their phones. You know, it's basically just saying, you know, the world is so reliant on technology. I mean, even in the video at the very beginning, they showed them putting that baby on a like pedestal and then putting that sort of helmet on them, and they seem to be sort of just feeding it like constant images through this helmet. And as the video went on, the baby was growing and growing and growing until eventually, I'm guessing at the end of the video, it, you know, the child was a full-grown adult, possibly an elder, and had basically died on the table, just constantly being fed information through technology rather than actually going out and learning stuff. So, you know, we have become slaves to technology, and this is it's what the song is all about, and it's got a very good meaning to it because we are too heavily reliant on these sorts of things. You know, few years back, YouTube didn't exist. You know, go a little bit further back, you know, the internet didn't exist. You know, what did we do before then? We actually went outside. We actually appreciated the world for what it is. We actually spoke to people, you know, rather than texting people through like Facebook, etc. You know, I mean, I've seen so many times, you know, like in like my local pub or in restaurants that I've been to, you know, you see people sitting at tables to have their dinner. They're like, first of all, they have to take a photograph of their dinner, like the world at large is somehow interested in what they're eating, and then rather than actually talking to each other whilst they're sitting at the table, they're sitting there on their phones talking to other people, you know, rather than having conversation with the people that are immediately around them. A little while ago, I saw a couple in a Chinese restaurant. It was a guy and a lass, possibly looked like maybe they were on a date. I can't be sure, but they weren't talking to each other. They were just staring at their own phones whilst they were eating. You know, they weren't actually talking to each other, and this is the way the world has become. You know, we're sort of self-involved in our own way because, you know, we're more interested in what's going on in our little world. you know, to see what influence we've had on the world, see if people have liked your latest photograph or something like that, rather than actually going out, meeting people, talking to people. You know, it's like even like dating apps like Tinder and stuff like that. You know, you're meeting people through the internet, you know, in a superficial manner, because all you're doing is looking at their photos, going, "I like that person," and meeting them, rather than actually going out, meeting someone, talking to them, getting to know them. You know, we don't actually take the time to get to know people anymore, and you know, it's just the way the world is at the moment. So I actually really like the meaning behind this song, and it was a very, very good song. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of the Floor Jansen era of Nightwish, but that was actually a very, very good song. And don't get me wrong, I do like the Floor Jansen Nightwish. I just prefer the original Tarja era, because I think she had the better voice. But yeah, good song, and you know, very typically Nightwish in the sound of the music, although there are elements of it that were a lot heavier than, you know, you would normally hear from them, but still very, very good. Very much enjoyed it. I liked it. So there we go. I'm going to leave that as is for the time being, because I can't think of much else to say about that. But yeah, good song. Good song. If anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so by all means. Drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or even through my Patreon, where you can also help to support this channel, help me create future content, maybe even improve the quality of these videos. There is also an option on Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue, should you so desire. There are a couple of limitations on that, though, to be fair to people who suggest tracks through normal means, however. Like people who suggest through Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, etc., you know, to be fair to them. And if you do suggest a track to me through those means, do know it might take me a while to get around to it, since I get suggested so many new songs every single day that my list of tracks grows faster than I can record the videos. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it will get done eventually. It's just going to take me a while to get around to it, unfortunately. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes, mainly those aimed towards people of the alternative culture. And this is something I believe in very, very strongly, something I'm very, very passionate about, because it's something I've had to deal with for most of my life. Members of my family have had to deal with it. Many, many of my friends have had to deal with it. And it's something that doesn't get the recognition that it absolutely needs. You know, every single day, all around the world, people are getting violently attacked, brutally beaten, sometimes hospitalised, sometimes getting bones broken, sometimes even more invasive injuries, just because they listen to alternative music. You know, and it's utterly, utterly ridiculous. You know, I mean, you don't attack people because they like different movies and TV shows to you, so why would you attack someone because of their taste in music? You know, it makes no sense, but it's still happening. And the thing is, nothing is getting done about it, nothing is getting said about it, and, you know, that needs to change, because every single day we hear about all these other hate crimes, like sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, what have you. We hear about these every single day, all points on the spectrum, from the most heinous and violent crimes where someone is like brutally murdered because of the colour of their skin, their religion, or, you know, their sexual identity or preference, down to the most pathetic little thing where, like, entitled Karen is calling the police because a family of colour are having a picnic in a public space. God forbid. You know, we hear every different version of hate crime from those specific, you know, ones. But we don't hear about these people that are getting violently attacked, brutally beaten, just because of their taste in music. Now, people have told me, oh, it's not a hate crime. It is. It is the very definition of a hate crime. A hate crime is attacking someone because you hate something about the way that person lives. You hate something about that person. You know, whether it is the colour of their skin, their religion, their sexual identity, or their taste in music. If you hate something about someone and you attack them for it, that is a hate crime. So, you know, but we never hear about it. But it happens all the time. And the last time there was any like widespread media coverage about this was 12 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently attacked by a group of 5 or 6 people. You know, they were jumped, they were kicked, they were punched, they had their heads stamped on so violently and so viciously that they ended up both ending up in a coma. And Rob Maltby, he thankfully survived. He was in a coma for about a week, maybe a bit longer, I can't remember exactly, but Sophie Lancaster was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries. She was brutally murdered just because she listened to alternative music and dressed in alternative fashion. And that was 12 years ago. And that's the last time there was any widespread media coverage about this sort of thing. And that's unacceptable, because I can guarantee you, in the 12 years since that's happened, hundreds, if not thousands of people from the alternative community have been attacked in a similar fashion. You know, and nothing's been said about it, nothing's been heard about it. And the reason is because nobody died. And it shouldn't come to that. It shouldn't take the death of someone for this to get spoken about. You know, it's unacceptable. You know, and something actually came to light on Monday, where it turns out one of the people responsible for the death of Sophie Lancaster has now had his sentence reduced twice and is up for parole this month. That means he's only spent 12 years in jail for brutally murdering someone because of their taste in music. Now, he's only done 12 years for murder and serious bodily harm to Rob Maltby. If I remember correctly, he still actually suffers some effects from that attack some 12 years later. You know, this guy has spent only 12 years in prison for murder because of good behaviour. I don't care how well he's behaved. This guy murdered someone. It shouldn't matter whether it's because of their taste in music or what have you. He brutally murdered someone, yet he's had his sentence reduced twice already. That is unacceptable. And, you know, is this just because they don't think the crime was that important because he only beat up a goth? I don't know. But it's unacceptable that this guy is eligible for parole only 12 years after murdering someone. We cannot allow this sort of thing to keep happening. You know, people don't seem to care about the fact that people of the alternative culture are getting brutally attacked, beaten, what have you. But if someone from a different race, religion, sexual identity or however, got brutally murdered in a similar fashion, there would be a massive outcry. And, you know, that person would probably spend so much longer in prison. It's unacceptable that this guy is being put up for parole after only 12 years. It's not acceptable. But this is the way that things go. And, you know, we've got to do something about it. We've got to stop these people getting away with it. I mean, okay, he's in prison, so he didn't essentially get away with it, but he's getting off lightly at only serving 12 bloody years, you know. And, you know, this is one of the things that the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want this, you know, they want more recognition to the fact that this is happening. You know, people of the alternative culture deserve to have the same, you know, they deserve the same treatment as everybody else. Just because we listen to alternative music doesn't make us any different. You know, people shouldn't be allowed to get away with crimes against people of the alternative community just because they're of the alternative community. It shouldn't be allowed. You know, people should have to face the same consequences as they do for everything else. And, you know, this is, you know, we can't allow these sort of attacks to keep going on. You know, and, you know, the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, they want to stop what happened to Sophie happening again. You know, that it should never have happened in the first place, but we certainly can't allow it to happen again. And, you know, the sooner we get more people talking about it, you know, the sooner we can make a bigger deal of it. Or not bigger deal, you know, the sooner we can get more people talking about it, the sooner we can get more recognition to the fact that this is happening. And it is a constant problem that needs fixing. But yeah. If you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their goal is, because they can explain it a lot better than I just did. And if you can help them out in any way, obviously don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them in any small way, you know, a small donation through their website, or something as simple as like one of these Sophie wristbands from their web store. You know, the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. And the sooner we bring more attention to this, the sooner we get more people talking about it, and the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.